now. So we're recording now, and if anyone doesn't want their face to appear on the recording, feel free to turn your camera off. It doesn't get watched by any people outside of Mary's, but that is, of course, your own choice. And I will be spotlighting people when they are speaking, when they're hosting or anything. I won't necessarily spotlight when people ask questions. But then if you want to obviously return to gallery view and see everyone's lovely faces after that, you can do that on your own in the top right, because I don't think it does automatically. So I think we will now get going. The first item on the agenda, so the minutes of the last meeting are available on the JCR website. There are no matters arising, and we have a quick announcement by Max Rose, who is the JCR treasurer. Max, there you are. Okay, so I will spotlight you there. Feel free, go ahead.
All good. Okay, hello everyone. This is just a quick announcement about some things that are going on with finances in relation to the JCR's clubs and societies. So obviously, given the current circumstances, there have been a few events and activities that the JCR has been able to put on. And so one upside to this pretty bad situation is that we are in a decent financial situation with some additional funds that would have been spent for things like subsidizing balls and formals and other various events that would have taken place in any normal year. So with this in mind, we came to the decision to use these additional funds to write off any debt that the clubs or societies may have accumulated in the past few years. So this was done to hopefully allow all of them to have a strong start once things can begin to resume and we get back to some semblance of normality. So one thing importantly to note is we haven't actually spent any money in the physical sense because this debt was owed to the JCR. So the money has just been reallocated to the clubs and societies from other various budgets that we have. So I hope that all makes sense. And if anyone has questions about this, feel free to ask now, or you can drop me an email later. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Max. Just as a reminder, you've got all your different ways of asking questions, and we'll just wait around for a moment here in case any do come in, because it just does just take a minute. If anyone's got any questions on Zoom, drop a message in the chat, and we can get you up unmuted to ask them. Yeah, just because the Google form takes a little while to get the responses through, we'll just give that a moment. Okay, seems like probably no questions. So obviously, if you've got any further questions on this one, you can email Max. Do you happen to, could you be able to drop your email address in the chat, your Durham address?
Yeah, of course.
Just so that then people can ask questions. But other than that, thank you very much for your announcement. And I will unpin you now if I can figure out how to do that. There we go. Okay, so I mean, I myself am then going to go back to gallery view in the top right. People can feel free to do whatever they want with that. I think it just affects the live stream. And we will move on to the next item of the agenda, our first election of the night. And that is for Toasty Bar and Shop Manager, which is Adam Shreves. And if I'm not mistaken, we have got a video host for this. So I'll just bring that up now. Okay. Right, I'll just screen share that now. If someone just wants to drop me a message in the chat saying what the volume's like for the clip, because that always does vary.
Hi, my name's Adam. I'm a second-year computer scientist, and I would love to be St Mary's new Toasty Bar and Shop Manager. I've had the pleasure of working at the Toasty Bar since my first year at St Mary's, and it's honestly been a fantastic experience. I've worked with both Emily Cliff, the current manager, and also Lewis Robinson, the former manager. So I would say I have quite a good idea of the types of commitments and responsibilities that are required of the manager. My main role if I got the job, would be just focusing on getting it open again as soon as it's safe to do so, which would involve working with the Mary staff, the Toasty Bar Committee, and, of course, the government guidelines. I'd work on re-implementing the sort of measures we had in place pre-Christmas, things like the email ordering system, having a limit on the number of people in the basement at once, and having separate staff workstations, all of which proved effective at keeping the Toasty Bar COVID safe. And as government guidelines hopefully start to loosen in the near future, I would work towards restoring the Toasty Bar to all of its pre-COVID glory. I've got plenty of ideas for the Toasty Bar when this happens, including things like revamping the specials menu, having themed toasty nights for trialing special ingredients, increasing the amount of publicity of the Toasty Bar, things like having posters around St Mary's and more social media presence. I'd love to fix the vending machine, that'd be very good. And for the staff, I'd like to improve the current toasty making workbench. But of course, all these ideas are secondary to keeping it COVID safe and just getting it open again. That's it from me. Sorry that I can't be there to answer your questions, but please do drop me a message or send me an email if you've got any questions. Thanks very much. Enjoy the rest of the meeting.
Okay, so thanks to Adam for sending that in, and yes, unfortunately he can't be here to answer any questions, so we will move on swiftly to the next election, which is the election for Communities Officer, and we've got Olivia Buckley here in the call. So if that's okay, Olivia, I'll just pin your video there, and you are good to go. So just a reminder, 3 minutes for a host, and I'll drop you a message if you're running over that time.
Hi, good evening everyone. I'm Olivia, I'm running for Communities Officer. So just a bit of an introduction to me. I'm a second year psychology student. Within college, I'm the co-captain of the women's hockey team, which is surprising given how bad I am. I'm president of Mental Life Society, which is the youth society, and I work at the bar. So I've been fairly involved so far in uni as well as in volunteering. So I've done lots of volunteering in hospitals, hospices, schools, holiday centres for people with disabilities. And I've also been a volunteer tutor over lockdown. I've really loved being part of college exec this year as the senior duck rep, and I really want to carry on with my involvement as communities officer. I feel passionately about embracing and fostering positive relationships between college and our local community, and I think it's really important that we give back to our local area. And I think students have this fantastic potential to volunteer in a way that's mutually beneficial for us and the community. So something I'd really like to get Mary's even more engaged in than we already are. So my ideas, I'd like to recruit a community committee, which will be widely advertised at the Freshers Fair during Freshers Week and through other outlets to reach older years as well as returners from like years abroad and things like that to get them back involved in college. And I'd also like to recruit representatives from sports and societies who can advertise opportunities and encourage friends from their respective groups to engage with volunteering as a group together. I think it'd be great to increase the social media presence of the Communities Committee. So I'd like to create an Instagram and a Facebook page and post regularly with long-term, one-off, remote and in-person opportunities just to give a broad variety of things that people can get involved in. And as far as projects I'd like to bring to the Communities Committee, over lockdown I established a education initiative to help potential applicants with getting into university and adjusting to university life. So I'd like to get Mary's students involved in that, and I'm happy to answer questions about that if anyone has any. I would also like to introduce fortnightly visits to a linked residential care home that we have between Mary's and a care home in the community, and host things like pub quizzes for them just to create sort of more lasting, durable relationships with elderly members of the local community. And another really important part, I think, is to collaborate with other Mary societies. So, for example, I'd like to organise a litter picking project with the Environment Society, and I'd like to host talks and Q&As on volunteering abroad, because I think that it's often quite a contentious issue around student populations to avoid volunteerism, and I think it's really important to help students choose ethical and impactful and worthwhile voluntary projects which are sustainable to engage with outside of university. So yeah, creating a sort of a group where people interested in that kind of opportunity can support and educate each other would be great. And of course, I think that quite often the organisations we volunteer with wouldn't be able to continue their work without donations. I think collaborations increasingly with the next year's Book Rep would be great to coordinate joint voluntary and fundraising initiatives. So yeah, I hope my enthusiasm and excitement for the role has come across, and yeah, I look forward to hearing your questions.
Brilliant, thank you, Olivia. So we will now open up to questions for up to 3 minutes. As a reminder to anyone who's joined more recently, you can ask those in the Zoom chat. You can ask to be unmuted and ask them vocally on Zoom. You can ask in the Facebook comments or in the Google Forms link, which I will post again in a moment, and that you can also use if you want to ask an anonymous question. So we do now just get the awkward bit where we kind of have to wait to see if any questions come in, because they obviously take a little while to type. So I'll just post the link there again. And actually, there's a point that I always forget to make at the start of the meeting. If people think of questions while somebody's hosting, it's a good opportunity to send them in advance, because then I can ask them straight away. But we'll just have a look to see if anything comes in here. Any questions? We've got a question. What's your perfect Sunday? Fair enough.
Well, coming to JCR meeting would definitely feature. Probably Sunday brunch with my friends, something like that. Obviously, COVID permitting, but yeah, cooking a nice big meal for my friends. I like doing that. I don't know. To be a good communities rep, I guess I would be involved in volunteering. I currently do online tutoring, so I'll probably do some prep for that, and yeah, make Facebook posts for the communities committee.
Brilliant. I've said maybe one of the less expected questions that might come up. We've got any more questions before we move on just now? We've had none so far in the Google form. Have we had any from the Facebook, Helena? Nope. Okay, last call if anyone has got any questions on Zoom. Okay, I think that is probably it there. So thank you again, Olivia, for your host, and I will unpin your video now and return myself to gallery view. So we now move on to the next election. This is probably the sort of item on the agenda that has a few people tuning into this meeting who maybe don't every single week. That is the JCR president election. It's of course a big one. This is going to be the president who is taking the helm at Mary's as COVID leaves us behind and we move into another academic year. And because the JCR president is such a significant item in the JCR calendar, the hosts are 5 minutes long rather than 3 minutes, and the questions are 10 minutes total, rather than the sort of shorter amount it would be in any other election. So we've got Megan Titterington followed by Chess Mason. So I will pin Megan for now, and then I'll pin Chess, and then both of you when you're answering questions. So as I've said, if anyone has got any questions that they think of already, you can put those in the Google form or the Zoom chat and I'll ask them afterwards, and that just means we can get the ball rolling. I can say we've already had quite a few. So Megan, whenever you're ready, 5 minutes and off you go.
Hi everyone, my name is Megan. I'm a finalist studying ancient history and I'm running to be your future JCR president. The opportunity to speak before you all today is a huge honour, and I'm incredibly grateful to Mary's for all the opportunities it has provided me with that have led up to this moment. The role of JCR president is one that I've been passionate about running for since I was a fresher, and firstly, I want to explain why I'm the best candidate for the role. My drive and determination to run for JCR Pres stems from the wish to make everyone else's JCR experience as memorable and welcoming as possible, and I know that I have the experience, passion, and Mary's love to make this happen. Over the past 3 years at Mary's, I have really pushed myself to be involved in the college community. This has included involvement in multiple sports clubs, showing particular dedication to Mary's rowing through my work as novice captain, as well as being a committed member to SOCCOM through ball committees and my role as formal secretary that has since led to my election as social chair. I have also taken part in 2 FREP teams, 2 POV teams, been a member of Mary's bar staff since I was a fresher, Mary's Duck, as well as being the current president of Baking Society. My dedication to college has left me with intimate knowledge on the day-to-day running of the JCR, which would prove invaluable to the role. My role as social chair has enabled me to make vital relationships with college staff that will enable me to run the JCR efficiently, as well as providing me with experience on the running of events in college, financial operations, and how to lead a team effectively. I appreciate the importance of accountability and dependability. After every single ball and formal, I have done my duty to clear up until the early hours of the morning, and every single sports training session I have turned up to on time for my teammates, even when I was incredibly busy with other college involvement. I thrive on working in a team and value communication, illustrated by my work on various executive committees and my roles as a FREP, which also shows my capability for leadership roles and would allow me to successfully lead the next JCR exec. I also understand the importance of student welfare, particularly in Freshers Week when you find yourself in a completely new environment. And my time as a FREP and POV rep has given me the experience to deal with sometimes challenging situations, as well as a greater understanding and ability on how to provide emotional support, which is vital to the role of JCR president. Next, I want to talk about what my plans would be as JCR president. Firstly, I will advocate further for inclusivity and accessibility. The JCR should be a place where everyone feels welcomed and represented. And as president, I will improve the visibility of hardship funds and scholarships so that they are easily available and accessible to those seeking financial aid at university. I would also push for the college to install specific gender-neutral toilets for students to access, whether they are livers in or livers out. I want to make sure that as JCR president, I am working for you, and to ensure that I am reflecting the wishes of the JCR, I want to provide greater opportunities for feedback, such as regular drop-in sessions throughout the term to present any ideas or concerns. I believe in light of recent years affected by COVID, that this is an incredibly important part of the role of JCR Pres in order to revitalise college engagement, guarantee that college is still providing events, societies and emotional support that fulfil every student's needs. Building on this idea, I believe that the sexual health facilities in Durham need vast improvement, with Durham ranking the second worst university in the country in 2019. Everyone is entitled to excellent sexual health facilities, and therefore through my work with other presidents and wider university committees that I would sit on as JCR president, I would campaign for better sexual health facilities that would improve the accessibility for students on a university-wide level. There is a great amount more I would love to do for Mary's if I were to be elected as president next year, with the experience of students at Mary's being integral to my campaign, and I will push for improvements that will benefit every single member of the JCR. Lastly, I want to talk about why I want to be your JCR president. I can't quite explain how much this role would mean to me. College has provided me with some of the best and most unique experience one could ask for, and I know with certainty that any other university lifestyle could not compare to the one that I've had here. Whilst university has been about the furthering of my education, it is college that has meant everything to me while studying. Every single time I hear Easy Love by Sagala, I am reminded of being a POV rep in my first year and the excitement that came with welcoming prospective students into the college that I had so recently made my home. Before every formal, I would be getting ready in the Pres flat after decorating the dining hall with the Pres and social chairs, all of us buzzing with anticipation for the night ahead, knowing that the hard work put in during the run-up to the formal would be appreciated and experienced by the students at Mary's. I have successfully cried 2 years in a row at the President's Guest Night formal due to the sheer amount of pride felt learning of everyone else's achievements in college. The hours I have spent dedicating my time to college greatly outweighs the time I spent on my degree, and that is something I say with pride. Even on my busiest week spent handwriting over 200 personalised name places for formal dinners, ironing table runners with my questionable ironing ability, organising training sessions for novices, fitting in weekly bar shifts as well as regular calendar meetings with college. Even with all the busy weeks and trivial jobs alongside my degree, I have never valued the experiences that college has given me more than I do now. And therefore the role of JCR president would mean everything to me if it meant I could work to provide the same experience for every single student at Mary's. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to message me over Facebook or drop me an email. But thanks so much for listening, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your evening.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you, Megan. So I will now remove the pin on your video and I will find Chess there. Right, this is where Zoom gets difficult. I need to go back to gallery view and then we'll get the second host for JCR President Chess. Could you just do me a favor? And oh, there we go, found you. It's just trying to look to you there. Spotlight for everyone. There we go. Okay, whenever you're ready, go ahead.
Cool. Hi, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Chess and I'm a third year finalist studying biology, and I would love for you to consider voting for me for JCR president. Without the Mary's community and the JCR, I would not be the person I am today. Before coming to Mary's, I was a shy girl who would hide behind her friends and could never even imagine applying for the role like JCR president. My time here has shown me the person I could be and helped me reach that potential through meeting so many people and friends and providing an experience like no other. It would be a privilege to have a position where I could help move the JCR forward in providing this experience for everyone. So why me? The role of JCR president is such an important one, which requires commitment and passion. And if I did not truly believe I could do this and do it well, I would not be asking you to vote for me. I'm extremely organised, having coordinated events within college in sports scenarios as netball club captain and team captain, as well as outside of the college. I also am able to adjust these plans and take into account problems which may arise. As we've seen from the last year, it's always helpful to have a plan B, a plan Z, and all the way to a plan Z in some cases. The JCR president needs to act as the bridge between students and college, a gap which has widened over the last year or so due to lack of interaction. I believe I am approachable and I'm committed to making sure everyone feels like they have a voice, providing an easy person to talk to no matter the scenario. I am also confident when faced with situations I do not agree with, so will not back down from issues arising which I believe are being handled in the wrong way. Finally, I have experience both leading and working within a team, spending my entire university life involved in a variety of team societies. This means I'll be able to work with both the students and the staff to make the best JCR environment possible. So what impact do I aim to have? It's an understatement to say that the last year or so has been pretty unconventional and has left a lot of people feeling disconnected with the college and college traditions. It's so important that the quintessential aspects that make Mary's Mary's are kept going. Imagine matriculation without the pots and pans, or midsummer ball without ending up on Observatory Hill watching the sunrise. The third and fourth years are the only ones who've had a full uninterrupted year, and it's vital that these traditions are carried on. I would also like to encourage increased student involvement with the college and the JCR. I know from experience that the JCR can feel quite exclusive, and that if you do not fully commit to all the societies and clubs and opportunities at the beginning of the year, then you never can, which is completely not the case. I would like to encourage club captains and presidents to re-advertise their club page links every term, potentially offering events specifically for people to join so it can feel less intimidating. Increasing interactions and involvement within the JCR exec is also so key. I would like to make available a more comprehensive cover of what each member of the exec does throughout the year, instead of just before elections, as many students don't know the full extent of what the roles involve, and in some cases it's then too late to apply. The most important impact I feel I can have is increasing the opportunity for ex-students to return, not only for graduation, but throughout the year. I want to expand existing events and provide some with graduate priority, such as grad dinners or a graduate ball. I also would like to encourage and expand the alumni events to include recent graduates who can share their experiences and encourage graduates to return for these alumni events. It is the least we can do for the finalists who have missed so much over the last year and otherwise won't get a chance to enjoy everything that JCR can offer. And finally, I promise to keep the JCR TikTok account up and running to the high standard as started by Joe and Sam. This past year has really highlighted to so many people, myself included, how important and special the JCR is. I want to make sure that students now and in the future can experience all the same amazing things that myself and so many others have had access to over our time here. I will really put my all into this role and really believe I can do it justice if given the opportunity. Please feel free to email me, my email's on the book sheet, or message me on Facebook or anything. Thank you.
Brilliant, thank you, Chess. Right, I will now add Megan's video back to the spotlight, so you should both be here. Here we go. Okay, so we've got a whole load of questions. I'm going to start the timer for them in a moment, and I'm sure we'll have more coming in. I'm going to try and divide my time equally between the ones on the Google form, the ones on Zoom, and so on. But I mean, obviously answer the questions in full, but also if we can be conscious that we've got a lot to get through in the time limit, I'm going to start that now. So we'll start actually with one from the Google form, and we're going to start in reverse order of Husts. So we'll start with Chess and then go to Megan on this one. And that is a question that we tend to get every year, which is, which of the 5 Mary's values do you think is the most important? And just as a reminder to anyone on the call who might, including me, have not remembered that there were 5 Mary's values, the core values are achievement, diversity. Oh, maybe I've not got them right. Hang on. If Joe can just check this, because there's 6 on the website. But I've got achievement, diversity, equality, integrity, respect, and well-being. Could Joe, could you just confirm that those are the core values?
Well, you've got me sweating now.
Okay, what I'm going to do...
Achievement, diversity, equality, integrity, respect, and well-being.
Yeah, okay, and I'm gonna put those in the chat. This is not counting towards the 10 minutes, just so that everyone can view them, and also just to remind the candidates as well, because they're important values, but not ones that maybe get talked about as often. Achievement, diversity, equality, integrity, respect, and well-being. And so we'll go to Chess first, if that's okay. Which of those values is the most important to you, and why?
I think for me, the most important would be respect, because especially over the last year, it has, and with what has gone on with Durham University in a wider context, it's so important that everyone feels respected and understood, and that they have a voice. And especially in the current situation, I think that is more key than ever before. So yeah.
Okay, and same to you, Megan. Which of the values?
I believe well-being is the most important value, because I believe that every single other value can be reflected in the well-being, because your mental well-being, your well-being in yourself is achieved, well, not achieved, is present through all these other factors. Like your integrity and respect for yourself is part of your well-being. The achievement that you have every single day is part of your well-being, and diversity and equality is something that everyone should strive for, not only for your own well-being, but for the well-being of everyone else.
Okay, thank you, Megan. And we'll now go to the next question, and we flip the order again. So this one will be Megan first and then Chess. It's another one from the Google form, which is that there have been and will be, as always, some sort of large changes to the composition of the exec this term in terms of who's on the exec, who's getting elected. How will you ensure that new exec members are supported in their new roles, just because the previous year might have caused them to not feel as prepared? So Megan, I'll go to you first.
So I would first of all encourage incredibly well detailed handover documents and publicize them quite frequently throughout the year, just to make sure that everyone understands what they're getting into when getting into a JCR exec role. But I think as well, just making sure and encouraging people that these roles are open for everyone. I'd provide a lot of well-being and emotional support to anyone who is going for it. And as stated in my speech, I have a lot of experience in JCR roles and throughout like committees and societies. I've worked in the bar, which has also given me a lot of experience with working with college, as well as when working as social chair, which would mean that I would provide a lot of support for the incoming exec.
Okay, and same question to you, Chess, just as a lengthy question, I'll repeat it, which is that there have been and will be some large changes to the exec this term with new people elected. Given that the people elected may not feel fully prepared after the year we've just had, how will you work to ensure they feel supported in their new role?
I think the most important thing was that they felt comfortable to ask questions to me, to the person who held the position before, to Joe, to anyone else. I think that whilst you can think you know what the role is going to be before you go into it, you're never going to know. And I just think it's so important that people feel that if they don't know what they're doing, they have a person to ask, a person to talk to. And as I said in my speech, I'd like to make sure that these roles are so publicized and clearly defined as to what is involved, so people know what they're applying to long before, because it can seem quite scary when you're applying for a role you only really know the name of. So I'd really like to create a more comprehensive cover of that, so people possibly will have less questions when they go into it, but if they do have questions, they have someone to talk to.
Okay, brilliant. And now we're going to ask another question and flip the order again. So Chess and then Megan. And this question, I think, is a vocal one from the current JCR president, Joe Castledine. Joe, go ahead.
Yes. Okay. So this role of president is really quite unpredictable, and at times and in periods during the year, it's really quite intense. So it often places you in very high pressure situations where all eyes are on you. All the students are looking to you for answers and support and the right thing to do. So how would you make sure that you handle pressure well and ensure your emotions in a lot of situations don't get the better of you?
So I think the most important thing is to be able to separate personal and professional, because if someone disagrees with one of your ideas, it is not a direct reflection on their viewpoint of view. It's important to be able to take that constructive criticism in some cases and apply it without being personally affected by what they've said, especially coming from other members of the JCR or students. It's never a direct reflection on you, it's a reflection of an idea. And I just think it's really important that you're able to separate that and act rationally and calmly without having any emotions affecting it.
Okay, and same to Megan.
I think the intensity of the job is something that can be really balanced out with regular communication with the executive committee and the staff at college. You are never alone in the job. There is always people around you that you can rely on as well. And I think it's about making sure that when you're dealing with these high pressured situations, you don't keep it to yourself, and you discuss and you talk it out with those around you, because communication is one of the most important things that you can have, and it's about understanding and finding a solution.
Okay, we're going to keep going. I think I may exercise my discretion to actually further extend the period for questions, if that's okay with the both of you, just because we've had quite a lot coming in. So the next question is another from the Google form. And that is that you've both made claims of sort of creating events and initiatives. So for instance, one on either side of grad ball and improving sexual health facilities. Do you think as president you would have both the powers and the financial capabilities to deliver on all the claims that you've made? And I've mixed up my order, but are we going Megan and then Chess on this one, I think? Yeah.
So personally, for my wish with sexual health facilities, it is about working as a team with other colleges and other college presidents to put forward the idea to the wider community. And there are several societies and committees that as president that you choose to be a part of, and one of them is a sexual assault and health committee that you can choose to be a part of. And as president, to campaign for further better facilities, I would like to be a part of that community, in which, with support from other presidents, I would push for the better facilities in the university. And as towards events that are being potentially promised, I believe that I have a great amount of experience with events, especially being social chair this past year and being formal secretary the year before. And whilst adding another event to the college roster depends on whether you want to add it as a SOCCOM event or a college event, but I would definitely look into the possibility of doing either.
Okay, and same question to Chess.
So referring to the graduate ball and dinners, I have spoken to Maggie Dawn about it, and she is incredibly enthusiastic about it and really wants to do anything to help be able to do something like that. So I believe we have the backing of the college, and I just think it's something that is so important, and that we should really try and work hard to make sure something like that is possible, because it is just such a key thing to what I think the next steps for Mary should be.
Okay, and we had a few questions about the Students' Union, so I'm picking the one from Sophie Tice in the chat, but we've had quite a few on this, which is that as JCR president, how would you view your relationship and encourage beneficial interaction with the Students' Union? And so we'll go to Chess first on this one, and then Megan.
So whilst the relationship with the SU is incredibly important, the JCR president represents Mary's, and I would, whilst talking to them about different things, my main focus would be on making sure the things that happen benefit Mary's as a college and as a JCR, and that would just be the stance I would take on any kind of interaction with the SU in any situation.
And same question to Megan.
Yeah, as Chess said, the JCR president's role is to provide as much as they can for their JCR. But the SU can provide beneficial things, such as they can fund campaigns, and they can fund opportunities that you want to push forward as a JCR. So if the situation arises where there was something in Mary's that really was a positive and highly popular opportunity that the JCR were keen to have implemented, then you can rely on the SU to a certain extent to fund things as part of your campaign. And the current opportunities officer, Anna Marshall, is keen on bridging the gap between the SU and the JCR. And I think it's something that needs to be discussed amongst the JCR on whether they are keen for this to happen.
Okay. Sorry, I'm getting all mixed up now. You've both answered this question and now we're going in reverse order again. Okay, we've had quite a few questions about this topic. So again, I'm picking one of them, but just know that I've seen all the questions, which is that due to sort of current situation, this year's freshers haven't been able to have maybe the full Mary's experience, and there may be some difficulties for next year's freshers. It remains to be seen. So what would you do to ensure that both last year's freshers and the incoming freshers next year have as full an experience at Mary's as possible? And would you support events for the people who are freshers this year, next year, to get a bit of that experience that they missed out on? So we're starting with Megan on that one, yeah?
Yeah. So I believe I have been incredibly fortunate with my experience, even though it has been affected by COVID. And I would, as JCR president, really want to push that everyone gets the same amazing experience as possible as they can. And I believe that events next year would be incredible if we could put on and look at the possibility of introducing priority tickets to a certain extent for the current freshers who will then be second years next year. My experiences as FREP and POVD, both in and out of COVID, would be integral to making sure that this year we can put on as great as a freshers experience as we can for the incoming freshers. But overall, I just believe that the revitalization of the JCR and really pushing for college involvement and pushing for as much to be on as safe and as safer in COVID times, depending on what they will be in the future, as possible is integral. And therefore, I would make sure that everyone has an incredible experience.
Okay, and same question to you, Jess.
I think that, especially at the moment, as we don't know what is going on, I think that any plans that are made, it is important that we're able to adjust them. And I think that I have the ability to be able to look at plans realistically and adjust them so that we put forward the best experience for both the freshers this year and the incoming freshers next year. But in theory, I'd like to put on more. So the freshers formals you have in the first week or so, I'd like to try and offer that to the current freshers. So in theory, we'd have 4 freshers formals, but 2 would be priority for the current freshers. And I think that, as Megan said, priority for events is something that needs to be looked into, because these freshers have had nothing, which isn't to say that the second years and third years and fourth years haven't either. But I think looking at giving priority to different year groups for different events is something that is really important, because you don't get the same environment when none of your friends can go. And I think especially this year, a lot of events will be highly oversubscribed, and you'll have groups of people who can't all go with their friends. And I think it needs to be a thing that year groups have priority, so that you can have that full experience of being with your cohort and the people you've lived with for the past year or so. Yeah, thanks.
Okay, and we've got a few more questions, if it's okay with the both of you. I do think it is sort of necessary to get through them all, but I appreciate it's a little bit longer than was planned. Your next question is, what are your plans for dealing with the mental health impact that will affect students returning to college in Mary's as a result of anything COVID related? So we'll go to Chess first on that one.
I know firsthand that it can be quite scary talking to people about things, and I would just like to present myself as a person that is available for anyone to talk to. I believe I hope I am quite approachable, and I just think it's so important that anyone feels like they have someone they can talk to. So if that's WAM, if it's the JCR president, if it's organising something else external from college, I just think that it's so important that they have a point of contact on that. And it is, if it is me, great. If it's head of WAM, if it's one of the college support, it's just so important that they have someone they know they can go and talk to. I would like to make it very clear at the beginning of the year who is available to talk to you at any time in the day. And yeah.
Okay, and same question to Megan.
So welfare and well-being is an incredibly important topic, regardless of COVID, but especially in these times. And I'm really, really passionate on making sure that everyone feels comfortable and safe and heard, especially because of this. And this links back to the whole the regular feedback that I wish to get, and to hold regular drop-in sessions for people to come and talk to you. But I think it is also about just making yourself known in Freshers Week that you are the first point of contact if needed for any emotional support alongside WAM, because you're there all time in college, and it's just about making yourself available to people. And I have had an incredible experience prepping and doing post-offer visit days, which has led to me also finding myself coming into hard situations and dealing with some very difficult and hard things. But I believe that I have the experience with them, and believe that I can be that first point of contact. I'm quite a friendly person. I'm always smiling around town and everything, and I just want to publicise that as JCR president, I would be there for them no matter what and no matter what time, because I believe that JCR president isn't a job that you switch on for, it's something that you're doing 24/7, and I would therefore just publicise that.
Okay, moving into our final few questions now. So starting with Megan and then going to Chess, what are your plans for supporting minority students in college?
This is something that's incredibly important to me, in the fact that I really want to make sure that the JCR is an accessible and inclusive place, and I would make sure that I am working alongside the current ethnic minorities rep, which is Emily Marilander, and just making sure that everything that she wants to do in her role is being respected, listened and publicised. It was really brilliant in the recent JCR election that the representational exec committee are going to be offered a role of FREP, and I believe that is incredibly important. And I think it's about making sure that there are more events from the very beginning in Freshers, and encouraging incoming students to take training courses that allow for people to get a greater understanding of what Mary stands for, and what and how inclusive and accessible we should be to everyone in college. Okay, and same question to Chess.
I think it's incredibly important to work with the members of the JCR who, such as the ethnic minorities representative. I think it's incredibly important to work with them and give them the support they need to put on events, because I can't speak for people who they can, and I think it's so important to give them the facilities or encourage interactions between the ethnic minorities representative and WAM, working with the 93% club in Durham, which is supporting other students from different economic backgrounds. I think it's just so important to work with other people to get other perspectives on things, so that everyone can work together to create a program which is effective and works, because some things just don't work. It seems quite condescending or whatever. I just think it's so important to listen to what everyone thinks and work from that.
Okay, so moving on to the penultimate question. You'll probably be pleased to hear the both of you. This has gone on for quite a while, but I think it's been very informative. Joe Castledine, JCR President, with the second question. Go ahead.
So a bit of a generic one. So as running a JCR is hard, there's so many different branches and factors and aspects of the job. You have so many different responsibilities and commitments throughout your entire year. Now, from the both of you, you've thrown out suggestions of big projects you want to do. But I think one of the most important things you can do is look after your students. And how are you going to prioritize looking after your students, which is the most important thing, over doing these grand projects that's going to take up your time?
Okay, and we're going to Chess first on that one. Yeah.
Cool. I think the most important thing is just to always make yourself available. As Megan said, JCR President is not a 9-to-5 job. It's constant. You're living with the students, you're talking to them, you're listening to what they have to say. And I think just making sure that it is known that you are always there and always available to talk or listen to any issues or deal with anything else is the most important thing, because you are a voice for the students within the JCR. And if they don't feel like they can talk to you, or if you're too busy, it doesn't work. So yeah, just making sure that you're always available to talk is probably the best way to do that, because otherwise you're not going to get the interaction you would elsewhere. It's what you get from a college is having someone to talk to about all these things. And I just think that is the most important job and would be my main focus if I was elected JCR President.
Okay, and same question to Megan.
Yeah, as I said on the earlier question, the JCR President is a 24/7 role. And that is something that I am very aware of. And I believe that it is an incredibly important thing just to keep communication and being a person to talk to at the forefront of everything that you do as JCR President. Being available to someone, even if it just be for 5 minutes for a catch up, just to say, hey, how are you doing? Or for longer, for when the struggle of a student is perhaps more intimate. I think that is the most important thing. And regardless of any big claims that I have written about or believe in, the most important thing is to do that I can do as JCR President is to be there for someone.
Okay, and moving on to the final question, from a familiar name for a number of people in this call, and I'd imagine for the two candidates, from Jonathan Wong. Describe your ideal college brunch: composition, arrangement on plate, order of items, beverage, visual aesthetics, etc. And we'll start with Megan on that one.
My ideal college brunch, to start off with, obviously, is the hot food. You got to have scrambled eggs. I would go for veggie sausages, tomatoes, veg, and all that kind of stuff. But I do love a good croissant and chocolate croissant on the side. Because I just love pastries. I love baking, and pastries are really great. But I love the fact that there's new and improved food in college, and I would take advantage of getting all the fruit and avocado as well.
Okay, and same question to Chess.
It's kind of something I feel like I perfected in first year. So I always got one of the cappuccinos from the coffee machine, 2 sausages, bacon, beans, a slice of toast, and a banana. Always the same thing, never changed.
Okay, brilliant. I'd just like to say a huge thank you to you both again, and to everyone who asked questions. Some brilliant husks, some brilliant answers. And I will now relieve you of your duties and unpin your videos, if I can remember how to do that. There we go, and there we go. And so, yeah, everyone can feel free to return to gallery view if they'd like. And we'll now move swiftly on and get on with the rest of the business of the meeting. The next set of husks is for senior freshers representative, which is another contested one. So we have Will Galnick and Matt Newhall. So if we can ask Will to unmute, and I can find him and pin his video. There we go. And you are now spotlighted for everyone. Will, 3 minutes whenever you are ready.
Okay. All right. Evening, everyone. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Will. I am a second-year philosophy and psychology student. I was on the prep team this year. It was a strange one, for sure, but ultimately very rewarding. Since I'm addressing quite a few people who are interested in frepping, I feel like I should first speak sort of directly to you. I was struck by how cohesive this year's FREP team became. I felt really privileged to meet some wonderful FREPs and freshers who I might not have spoken to otherwise, and these kinds of bonds actually changed the course of my year. So I encourage you, if you're still on the fence about applying, to ask yourself if that is something you would like to do. What I learned is that I see this role as a facilitator of sorts. My priority is to build a team that works. I've been fortunate enough to coordinate groups in the past, and I've certainly made some mistakes along the way. But in my experience, if the group works, then the work sort of does itself. All I want to bring to the table is some of my organizational skills, my composure as well, and also my drive, I think. But I'm much more interested in bringing out and involving the FREPs in the sort of creative process, if you will, of Freshers Week. The experiences of every fresher are more or less like the ideas of every FREP eventually. So it makes sense to appeal to that for me. This year's Freshers was challenging, restrictive, but it also ushered in a lot of new ideas. Some of which were actually just really quick, creative on-the-spot kind of decisions that we pulled off. And it got me thinking that if we had more time and we actually let this process kind of happen naturally, it could actually make Freshers Week a lot more relatable, more inclusive, but I think most importantly, and it's something we're all in desperate need of at the moment, which is fun. So with that being said, I'd like to make some changes to the organizational side of things. I'd like to tighten up communications in the team. I'd like to increase the activity in summer so we can actually get as much done as possible in terms of developing new ideas, new concepts, really fleshing out the theme again. I suppose also something else I'd like to add is I'd like to appoint someone to social media for the week. I think getting a consistent flow of information has been a problem sometimes in previous years. And given the importance of digital nowadays, I just want freshers to always know where they need to be or where they would like to be. What I'm really trying to get across here is that I really don't care if I have the most soul-numbing administrative Excel sheet like week. It's completely irrelevant to me. What I'm obsessed with is the final product. And I want to make sure that the FREPs are happy making it as well. I think that's really, really important. Finally, I would like to appoint someone to liaise with WAM potentially. As ever, the great and powerful WAM will obviously be on deck. They always are. Having joined the WAM exec this year, liaising with them just won't really be a problem. And my final point would be that I'd like to work with the ethnic minorities rep to maybe introduce a new topic to the week, focusing on diversity in Durham. As a psychology student, I'm actually genuinely interested in looking at how diversity, creativity, and prejudice are linked and involving the freshers in this dialogue. Finally, I just want to say that I was lucky enough to get to know Matt during FREP week. He is a very talented and kind individual, and whatever the outcome of the election, I'm almost sure that the role is in good hands. So yeah, thank you very much. That's me.
Okay, thank you, Will. So I will briefly remove the spotlight on your video, and when I can find Matt, I will bring him up. There we go. Spotlight for everyone. Okay, Matt, same to you. 3 minutes whenever you're ready.
Hi, everyone. Hope you're having a good evening. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Matt. I'm a third-year computer scientist, and I'm running to be your senior freshers rep for this year. I'd like to start off where I was in Freshers Week. So before I came to Durham, I was a super shy person throughout all of secondary school and everything like that. But literally like day one, day two of Freshers Week, I was so involved in Mary's and I wanted to do every single activity. And I think the thing I put that mainly down to is the FREPs and the events that they put on for this that week. It got me so involved in Mary's and just wanted me to really be involved in college life. It's really helped me come out my shell over the last 3 years. And I'd say I'm a much different, like a very different person to how I was when I joined. And I owe that a lot to the FREPs that were there in my first year. So you could just say, why not just be a FREP? Why do you want to be head FREP? Well, I've now been a FREP for the last 2 years. I've loved every minute of each one of them. Even this last year where it's been a bit of an odd one. Will's definitely touched on that to say the least. But yeah, I've loved both of them. And having worked in both a sort of like normal year and also a COVID year, I know this year we're not going to perfectly know what happens for Freshers Week. I really hope that it's sort of like, again, a normal year where we can sort of have Glastonbury's, Newcastle Nights Out and things like that. But then again, we don't know right now. I can only hope so, but again, we don't know. So after seeing what it's been like the last 2 years, I feel that I can really work on having a plan A and a plan B, plan Z if possible. But yeah, a plan in place for both a Freshers Week in a normal year and a COVID year. A big thing I want to bring to the team is, again, my organizational things, my organizational tactics. I've been in about 5 execs this year. I do SOCCOM, ArtSoc, I'm tech director, and a bunch of other things. And my degree is just coming back on track, but we're getting there. And it's really helped me a lot this year, getting my organization on point. And I feel like I'd be in a good spot to really run Freshers Week, and it'll be a great event. The big things I want to do for Freshers Week, the main thing I want to have is more FREP involvement. I remember when I first ran for FREP, I had all these ideas, and I really don't want to say the Freshers Week that we put on wasn't perfect, because it really was. But I definitely had a bunch of ideas that I wanted to put on, and I didn't feel like maybe we could have done them, especially this last year when there was a lot more restrictions on what we could do. But that's why over the summer, I really want to involve FREPs in the creative process, see what events they want to put on, and I can give them the tools that they need to do to try and put them on. This also goes for minority reps, such as the LGBT and ethnic minorities reps. I really want them to be able to run whatever events they want, because again, inclusivity is something that Durham does struggle with a little bit. And I really think having events on in Freshers Week to make those students more welcome will be a really big deal. Other things that include, I want to put on more signposting and drop-ins for people. This is not only for freshers, but also for FREPs. A big thing I think is also overlooked is that when it comes to year 2 FREPs, they're also entering a whole new year of university. For the first year, they've been living in Mary's, they've had all their meals catered, but now that they're living out in a house with a bunch of people that they may not have even like known because they may have signed in like November, they might not know them that well. And it's a bit of a struggle for them to adapt to their home life and also have to come in and be like an engaging presence for like 14 hours a day. So I really want to give them the space to talk to me if they want, or WAM or anyone about the problems they're having. As well as that, I wanted to have more advertising on social media, if that is FREP profile pictures, so everyone can see who the FREPs are. They can get signposted to them if they have any questions, things like that. More socials to get the FREPs more involved over the summer. It was amazing how quickly all the FREPs gelled this year. It was incredible, but I feel like getting us more connected will make us even better team, honestly. I think I'm approaching the end of my time, so I want to say, please vote. If you're thinking about becoming a FREP, please run for it. It's such an incredible experience, and it's been the highlight of my last 2 years. And then after all, I also want to thank Will for running. Will is also an incredible candidate. I love him. And whoever wins, I know it'll be in great hands. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Matt. And I will say, I mean, normally the rules forbid mentioning other candidates in your HUSs, but when people bend the rules, it isn't usually to be lovely about each other. So I'll kind of allow it this time. So we'll go to the questions now. If anyone's got any, you know the way to ask them. We've got a couple coming in now. I'm going to quickly address one that actually I think can be just answered very quickly. Someone asking, how do you apply to be a FREP? And that is basically that the applications will open next term, and it will involve almost invariably a written application. We answer a few questions about why you think you're suited to the role, why you want to run for it, and interviews, which again, the format can vary, but will usually involve the head FREP and 1 or 2 other people. So that's how you do that, and keep an eye out for that. Now, we've got a few questions in the chat. We're going to go in order. So we've got one from Francesca Warren. So if you want to unmute and ask your question.
Yeah, I was just wondering, especially with what's happened in this last year, a lot of the freshers that are coming in are going to be likely to be very apprehensive and worried about actually what's going to go ahead and things. A lot of them, you know, not going to social activities and things within the past year. So what would you do on the lead up to freshers and during the week to make it more, to make them feel more at ease and things for starting uni?
Okay, and we'll start with Matt on that one.
Yeah, that's a really great point. The big thing I want to drive up this year is definitely social media involvement. This is not only like during Freshers Week, but also in like the 2-month lead up to it. Obviously, these students may be people that haven't really been to school that much over the past sort of year and a half, and they're going to have a lot of nerves, not even just about events, but even settling into university life. So I feel like just having videos from maybe freshers from this year that have had to adapt to sort of like hard times, and then videos from people that have been here and had sort of normal experience will really help to sort of settle their nerves, I really hope. Yeah, again, also public signposting, drop-ins, fundamental key things that we need to have all the time in freshers, not just in freshers week, but all the time. But I feel like they'll be very key this year to hopefully ease their nerves regarding these events. Yeah.
No, go ahead.
All good to go? Okay. For me, the big one I remember was when I first got the kind of flurry of emails from college in summer before I came for my first year. There was this fantastic little kind of like quite thick like digital booklet with pictures of the freps, information about the Freshers Week. And I just remember reading that and feeling very, very relaxed. And I was like, okay, so this is what's in place for me. This is what's in store when I get there. And so I would definitely put some emphasis on that. And then just to echo some of what Matt said, drop-ins definitely daily if possible without overworking WAM as well. And also I think just generally creating the types of events that encourage freshers to perhaps not open up to each other, but at least get to know each other and figure out what kinds of connections will be valuable to them for the next 3 years. And I think that's something actually I will be able to do quite well. I hope so. So that's me.
Sorry, I'm muted. Okay, so we'll now move on to the next question in the chat, which is from Michaela Abs, which is, as the senior freshers rep, you'll be pulled in many directions by your own ideas and by others trying to encourage you to incorporate theirs. How do you plan to deal with this, to find the balance, recognize which ideas you cannot incorporate, and communicate these decisions and prioritize? So we'll go in, again, reverse order and go to Will first on that one.
Well, I think it's fair to start by saying that I learned a lot from Michaela because of the ideas that I gave her that she didn't take because they were not so good, that's for sure. I think also there are two things at play that I would really focus on. The first is really opening my mind and just learning to, not learning actually, just listening to everyone and really appreciating good ideas for what they are and not involving any other kind of external factors, if you will, or politics or whatever. And the other one is to be decisive. I think that at some point, part of the reason we go for senior frep is because we do value having a little bit of control over what happens and what doesn't, because we feel that we can do that to the best of our ability. And so for that reason, I think it has to be said that I would certainly not hesitate to either allow or deny some kind of request for an event or something if I felt it was not beneficial or detrimental to Freshers Week. So yeah.
Okay, and same to Matt.
Yeah, so like I said, I really want to get Freps involved in the creativity process from like July onwards as soon as possible, because I really want them to incorporate their ideas as much as possible. I know that if we throw them ideas that we've sort of come up with, they're going to want to do them, obviously, because it's still college at the end of the day. But I feel like if it's their ideas, they really want to jump at them. I know there's definitely an issue of compromise, but I feel like if we get started early on that, we can really iron out an ironclad timetable of things that we can definitely do. And we can confirm that with people in advance. If there's ever sort of like an issue with things not being able to run, we can always bring that up to the person sort of individually to see if they've got any more ideas, things they might want to do differently a little bit so we can actually run it, things like that. But yeah, at the end of the day, I still want to give the Freps as much creative potential as possible and see what they can put on.
Okay, I'm just combing through because we've had, again, a lot of questions. Unfortunately, we won't be able to get through all of them because I am going to try and run more strictly to time here. I'm going to combine two questions actually, which is part one, how are you going to encourage lots of students from diverse backgrounds to apply to be a FREP and make sure the process is inclusive? Part two, what will you do to support students from minority backgrounds where they can feel possibly quite isolated during Freshers Week? So we'll go to Matt first on that two-part question. Yeah,
both really great questions. On the topic of helping minority communities get involved in college and sort of feeling welcome during Freshers Week, that's a really big part of my bog sheet. I really want to give ethnic minority reps the chance to hold their own events, because I know that I would really love to get them to get involved and I can try my best. But at the end of the day, the ethnic minorities reps are going to know what works for them. They have a much better ability to connect with them because they've been through the same experiences. It's difficult for me as sort of like a straight white person to just say fit in or whatever, whereas I can go to them and say, you've been through similar things, how would you put on events or like make people feel more welcome? When it comes to allowing people to run for FREP, again, I feel like anyone should be able to run for FREP. Yeah, advertising it to everyone is always such a key thing. Diversity, again, is a factor that is a bit lacking at Durham. But I feel like having an ethnic minority FREPs already on the FREP team will encourage more people to apply because they'll know they have people to connect to on the team already.
Okay, and same question to Will.
So on the topic of the FREP process, I think the first thing is to just let everyone know that obviously the first round, so the kind of written applications are obviously anonymized. And I think that's very important because it eliminates any chance of a conscious or unconscious bias. In terms of the interviews, I can just give you my personal assurance that I will do the best I can to just give the interviews fairly without any bias whatsoever. In terms of the freshers, I think it's a more complicated question, actually. I think one big one would be you kind of arrive in Durham and there is this sense of erasure sometimes where you go out and next thing you know, it's Take Me Home Country Roads. And it's like, well, what on earth is this? I've never heard this song in my life. And you can feel a little bit like constrained by that. And I think one way of counteracting that would be to organize, and this is something I wanted to do this year, but it was limited by COVID, which was to have some kind of culture mashup where different styles of music, different foods, different pieces of art, anything really, are kind of put on display by students that would like to do so, representing their respective cultures. And I think that would actually create a really interesting dialogue where you'll have people from completely different corners of the world who are interacting over something they have a passion about, like music, for example. That's certainly one I would focus on. I'm kind of music obsessed. And yeah, I think that answers the question more or less, I think.
Okay, and I mean, regretfully, there's been a lot of very, very good questions that we're not going to be able to get through because we'll be here for another 20 minutes if we go into them. But I would like to thank everyone for sending them in. And just going in the order of when they were sent in, we've got Joe Castledine again with another question here. So Joe, feel free.
Hello. Okay, so being head FREP means you'll be working closely with college staff, the JCR president, operations staff, the wider university, health and safety, and the list goes on. In the past, and certainly speaking from our experience, it's always a challenge. You're always rubbing up against different people and different organizations, but each one's really important. So how do you plan to maintain a good working relationship with all these different parties?
Okay, and we go to Will first on that one.
So for me, the first one would be to maintain a really clear and direct discourse with them at all times. I think it's important to come across as not, a third-year student necessarily, but also to come across as a responsible adult who is taking on a role and who really regards it as almost a job, I think. And I think it is a job, really, to be honest. That's how I see it. And that's how I see my application for it as well. And I think the second one is to just stay calm. I know that in my experience as a FREP this year, there were instances of either a lack of communication between certain staff and certain members of the FREP team, or just either side sometimes being a bit difficult. And I'll recognize that even I was a bit difficult at times, I think that's fair to say. But so the key one for me is to stay calm and to understand that a way of getting things done is something you have to sometimes, I should say, lengthen out the process rather than kind of bite down and try and get things done immediately. So that's definitely one way I would look at improving that relationship or just maintaining it.
Okay, and Matt's own question.
Yeah, I think communication is such a big factor there because I feel like this year there was especially an issue of, because everything was so late, everything did have to be a little bit rushed at the last second. And there was no way we could have changed that. It was a completely evolving time for 3 months. We had no idea. But I feel like college staff may get a bit antsy if you ever ask them anything at the last second. Again, with the creative process that I want to get started in July, getting college staff involved as early as possible so we know what kind of ideas we want to put on, so we can let them know, give them a lot of advance, a lot of notice, so they can know what sort of safety form needs to be checked out, things like that. I've also done winter ball in the past, so I've worked with a lot of the college staff previously, so I've got an already good working relationship with them, which I think would really help. But yeah, communication, absolutely vital.
Okay, brilliant. So just remains to say thank you very much to both of you. for your hosts and for answering questions, and apologies to those whose questions I wasn't able to get to, but I think we've covered as many of the bases as possible. I'll remove the spotlight there, and we'll now move on to the final item on the agenda, an election for which there is only the one host, and that's a bar steward, and we've got Jack Stone. So Jack, once I can spot you among the many faces, there you are. I'll spotlight you, and 3 minutes for your host whenever you are ready.
Great. Hi guys, nice to meet you, although I don't know any of the freshers this year, unfortunately. My name is Jack, and as you know, I'm running to be the bar steward next year. I haven't prepared much of a speech, but I'll try to go off the top of my head. So in terms of experience, I've worked in my local pub for about 3 years now, and getting plenty of experience behind the bar. Now, I've also worked at Mary's Bar for the past 2 years, but the current year doesn't really count, of course. And I've also gained experience behind the bar. In terms of administrative work, which would come with this job, I'm eager to learn more. I'm a quick learner. I've had plenty of job experience in different types of jobs of administration, so I'm sure I can do pretty well in that respect. So that's my experience. In terms of some of the goals I'd like to achieve working as a bar steward, I'd like to continue to use the reusable cup scheme to help the environment. In terms of the COVID situation at the moment, obviously we need to keep hygienic, and I'll do my utmost best to keep the bar clean. But I think even, if we were in a COVID era right now, I'd still like to focus more on keeping the bar clean, especially for purposes of attracting potential students from other colleges as well. Mary's Bar isn't a particularly big one, so we need to do our utmost best to make it attractive to others as well. I'd like to start working with the JCR to increase efficiency and help the bar run smoothly. One thing I'd like to introduce is a bit more hands-on training for new bar staff. I know when I started working, I was a bit miffed and a bit lost on how everything worked at Mary's Bar. It's a bit different than most other pubs because there's different requirements and there's a big emphasis on individual responsibility. So I think that can shock a lot of young people that are starting bar work for the first time. So I'd like to help new students with a bit more hands-on training and get them better prepared. Another thing I'd like to introduce is a wider range of spirits for the bar. I know lacking in whiskey at the moment, so if I am able to convince Mustafa, who is the manager, to get some more spirits, I definitely like to ask him for some more whiskey, and that will help help some much needed alcoholics in the college community. That's it. I haven't much to say, unfortunately. I'm counting on people to ask questions, so feel free to do that whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Jack. And we've actually got one question that came in advance, so we'll go straight there and just remind everyone. So your last opportunity of the evening to ask questions, so ask away in all the ways that you can, but we'll start with this. How do you propose to handle the duties of the role alongside your own work?
Well, I really miss working. Before I went to university, I was working full-time for about 4 or 5 years. I started university as a mature student, so I do anything to work full-time. I really am a workaholic. I'm addicted to workahol. Sorry, bad joke. I don't have a problem with managing that. I cope pretty well under stress anyway, so proof is in the pudding. You'll see me work next year because I don't think there's anybody else applying for the job. So I'm lucky enough to run unopposed this year.
Okay, and another question there. How will you make life easier for bar staff?
like I said, a bit more hands-on training for new staff, and obviously for the current staff, what I'll do is carry on what we're currently doing, which is offering bar staff the opportunities to more or less set their own rota, to change it however they want through the team chat. And I'll make myself available for any questions while I am the bar steward.
Okay, and another question, which is, what are your thoughts on reintroducing premium spirits? I don't know if this is something that was the case during your time at Mary's, but introducing premium spirits behind the bar.
I have no thought on it, to be fair. I don't know what my limits are on what kind of alcohol I can choose to introduce to the bar. Most of that goes, I believe, goes through Mustafa. But I mean, I'd like to get, open a poll perhaps to see what kind of alcohol people would like to see reintroduced, and I can bring that forward as a proposal.
Okay, and speaking of interacting with Mustafa, how would you balance the needs of your team whilst meeting the needs of Mustafa?
It's a good question. How would I balance the needs of my team while meeting the needs of Mustafa? I don't know. I find him quite easy to talk to, Mustafa. I haven't had much difficulty while working behind the bar and setting a standard. I don't see any issues coming up with that, unfortunately. I don't really know what to say on that. I think I'll be fine.
Yep, that's all good. And that is actually all the time that we've got for questions. So thank you, Jack, for joining us with your husband answers.
No
and we can now go back to gallery view. We can remove the spotlight, and that is the last hust of the evening. I'm now, before people go, just going to post the link to the election, which is live now. One person has voted already, which I didn't mean to happen, but that's only one, so that's fine. And now feel free to go and vote. The link is there. That should all work. Someone let me know if it doesn't, but that should be fine. And I will post that on the Facebook group and on Instagram and everywhere else shortly. But feel free to go and vote. Check out the manifestos on there. I'll be posting the blog sheets throughout the week. I'll be posting the the video of the president husts in various places as well, so people can access those. And please vote. This is a big election, obviously, to any freshers who are here, and thank you for sticking around on the call. Next year is going to be take two of what we hoped to be your sort of freshers experience in a lot of ways, and we are voting now for the people who are going to be around for most of that year in a JCR role, trying to keep it all running, and obviously, of course, as well for next year's freshers. It's all very big as well, so please vote. Hoping to get a huge turnout. We usually do in these second and third meetings of Epiphany term. And I mean, I'm gonna keep the call live for a minute, so that people can all click on the link. But everyone's feel free to go and to have the rest of their evening. Joe, I've not missed anything, have I? Helena, I think we're all good. Yeah, everyone, thanks for sticking around. Probably the longest meeting of the year, certainly the joint longest as it will be. And thanks again.